Hi, I'm Lisa and welcome to Ivy Lane Home. Today's furniture project is this custom piece. Somebody reached out to me locally. They picked it up on Facebook Marketplace. It is a Dixie faux bamboo, but it had been previously painted. So check this out. They actually painted the insides of the drawers. Not well, but they painted both sides, not the back, but there's all of this paint around the inside of the drawer. So it's not even like a crisp line. So I was like, that would be really difficult to try to get off. And so I was like, I've just never seen this. So she wants it for her nursery, and we're actually going to be painting it a very similar color to what it already is. It just needs a fresh paint job. So in order to do that, I'm going to make sure it's totally cleaned out, give it a nice vacuum, get it sanitized. I'll take all this hardware off. Now, I did test the hardware because it's painted and it's not magnetic. So I told her I do think it's brass. And so anytime you see some like writing on the back, if there's any kind of labeling or writing, typically it is brass. And so I'll try to get that cleaned up later. But for right now, I'm just going to give everything a really good scuff sand because I need to reprime and paint everything. So I'm going in with 180. Obviously, you can see on the sides here, it wasn't even primed on the sides because it almost came down to raw. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I could go to raw, but not all of the drawers sanded quite that nicely. So again, I'm just doing a scuff sand. A lot of it came off, but I needed to make sure that, like I said, I'm not trying to go to raw, but some of it is coming down to raw, but I really needed to have a good surface in order to have good adhesion when I go to prime and paint. So my orbital won't fit in, so I have to use my little Ryobi. This is my corner cat and I don't have it hooked up to dust extraction, so I have to use my shop vac with it. So it's not ideal. I need to get like a square or rectangular sander that I can hook up to my dust extractor, which would be great for those corner areas. But it works and you kind of use what you have. So after it's all kind of sanded down, I'll clean it with a 50-50 mixture of denatured alcohol and water. I'll do that for all the drawers. So what we decided to do on the drawers, I talked to my client. I think the best route is I got as much as I could off when I was sanding it. I'm going to create a border with some painter's tape, and then I'm going to mask off the interior. Because, I could paint the whole thing, but it's really not necessary for me to paint wood. I really don't like to paint wood if I don't have to, but I want it to be a nice crisp line. So I'll create a line and I will spray the whole drawer again. And then I'll pull that up, and then at least I have a nice crisp border, and I'm just going to line over it. So you're not going to really see the border because I am going to line over it, but I know it's going to be a crisp line, and if she ever decides just to pull the liners up, it'll still look really good. So that's what our plan is. I'm using some glazing Bondo just to fill in a few of the areas on the drawers that had a little bit of dents and indentions. Now you can see they probably painted this with a paintbrush, so there's lots of texture here. And so in order to get a really good paint job, I need to knock down all of that texture. So I'm going to go over the entire surface and the sides, knocking it all down, making it flat. There's quite a bit of paint on the inside too, so what I decided to do is I'm just going to mask off the drawer guide, and I'm going to put some paper underneath everything and go up the side, so that way I'm just going to spray it all. But I won't get it on the interior of the dresser, so I think that's a pretty good compromise. I'm starting the priming process. I'm using Ben's 123 primer. This is a water-based primer. I'm using my Wagner Erlex 5700. Sprays beautifully. I'll put 2 coats of primer down. I will give a nice scuff sand in between. Then I can move on to paint. So my client chose a color from Sherwin-Williams. So I'm going to go there, pick it up. This is called Indigo Batik. It has an LRV of 8. It's a beautiful, what I would consider a denim color. I'm using the new Gallery series, and it is a beautiful paint. It dries super hard. It's like almost industrial. I have been very impressed with it. I used to use Command by Benjamin Moore, which is good too, but I sometimes would get orange peel with it, and I'd have to either put some Floetrol in it or something. I don't have to water this down at all. I don't have to put an extender in it. It sprays beautifully. Usually 2 or 3 coats, and I'm good to go. After the 30-day cure, it is hard as a rock. So for the hardware, I soaked it in some baking soda with some vinegar and boiled water. Didn't do much, and so what I decided to do was a acetone bath after this. So I left it on there for a few, like 24 hours, but it wasn't doing much. So I will later do an acetone bath. Now, in between coats, I like to do a scuff sand with a high grit. You can see I'm doing that here. Dust it back off, and then I'll do another coat. I had a couple areas that I did an additional fill in, and then I had to reprime them, sand it back down. Then I did a couple other coats on those drawers just to make sure I had a really good finish. So after my acetone bath, you can see it's coming off really good. So the paint just came right off, and then I'm using a wire brush and some 4/0 steel wool just to try to polish them up the best I can. And I think they turned out really good. So I texted them to my client. She liked it just there. She didn't want to do any additional coloring, so she liked the color. So I'm just going to seal them with some brass for lacquer by Mohawk. And then the last step is she wanted to line the drawer. So the initial one we found was actually not wide enough for the drawer. So we would have had to, and the pattern was vertical. So she found this one. It's a beautiful trellis pattern, and it's like 20 some odd inches wide. So I didn't have to piece it together within the drawer. And so I'll have it linked down in the description. It's a really good quality one that she found. But I think it fits the whole faux bamboo vibe that we have going on. It looks really good with it. All right, well, let's look back at the before on this one. It's not a huge transformation because, it was kind of similar color, but obviously a very poor paint job, didn't hold up very good. I do think they primed some of the dresser. Some of it wasn't primed, obviously, some of the drawers. Have never seen anybody paint the interior of drawers, but now I have. So I think our solution to just repaint the interior of the drawers and tape it off, I think was a good decision. So just sanding it down, filling in any dents, giving it a proper prime, sanding between the coats, and then using a quality paint. That's what's going to give you a really good paint job. So, pre-painted pieces, sometimes they can be scary if they have a lot of texture to them. So you have to re-sand everything down. But, a pre-painted piece can be saved. So it just takes a little bit of extra work. But here's the finished product. What do you think? Not very different, obviously. We went with a similar color. It's definitely a beautiful color. She chose wisely for this. It's for a boys' nursery, and I really love kind of that denim blue look, obviously paired with that beautiful hardware. I'm glad we went ahead and stripped it down. It turned out beautifully, and so I'm glad she kept it that way. Chose a beautiful liner. I think it really fits in with the Grand Millennial chinoiserie look, and so faux bamboo is really popular in my area. Anytime I get my hands on one, they go really well. So look at that shine on the top and the sides. That gallery series, I'll tell you what, it is beautiful. This is satin, and it doesn't come in a matte. It only comes in satin, I believe, and semi-gloss. They might have a gloss. I'll need to check, but I'm really loving gallery. It is a little pricier, but I do feel it gets worth it to buy a little bit better quality paint, because that way your client is getting a really good paint job. So it's important. Like this one just wasn't painted very well. So it starts with your prep, making sure everything is smooth, making sure you prime, and then using a good quality paint. See that shine? I mean, it took me a few coats to get there. Sanding things smooth, making sure that any imperfections were filled in, but it doesn't get much better than that. And so after 30 days, this will cure down and it'll be a really durable finish. So if you're going to paint a piece, invest in a little bit higher quality paint. So don't be afraid of picking up some pre-painted pieces, especially if they're not like flaking off. They can just be sanded down, give a good prep, and you can still have a beautiful piece. So tell me what you think in the comments, and thanks so much for watching.